Okay, adding, subtracting fractions. If you can add, you're going to be able to subtract. There's just one little catch. So remember, back to normal numbers. When you're adding, we need to make sure that we've got the common denominator. So when it's 3/7 over 2/7, easy, yep, works out. Happy days? When we've got different denominators, one of the easiest ways to get the common denominator is to just say 5 times 2 and we get 10. And then we do the cross multiplying. Because we asked ourselves, what do we times by 5 to get to 10? Well, 2. Similarly. So cross multiply. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if I'm going very fast. But we've just had photos. So happy? 3 2s are 6. 5 times 1 is 5. And we get the 11 over 10. This is what you did in primary school with numbers. What happens if you had something like 5 over 8 and 2 over 4? We're not going to say 8 times 4 because then we're just dealing with bigger numbers. We're not wrong if we do that, but we're just making our life harder. So we always look to find, can we get the lowest common denominator possible? And in this case, what goes into 8 and 4? Well, what goes into 8 and 4? It has to be 8. Right? What if we said, what's the lowest common denominator for 12 and 8? What's the number that 12 and 8 both go into? Lowest one possible. No, 4 goes into both of them, but what do 12 and 8 both go into? No, 2 goes into them. What does 12 go into?
24. 12. 24. 1.
Stop. Shh. So someone just said 12. Now 12 goes into 12, but 8 doesn't go into 12. So it's got to be both of them go into the smallest number possible, right? Now we said you could go 12 times 8, but you're using big numbers, right? 2 goes into both of these, but these don't go into 2. So you've got to make sure we're finding the smallest number that 12 and 8 go into. Now the tip is always take the biggest number and just keep adding on. So you look at 12. Now 8 doesn't go into 12. Double it. 24. Does 8 go into 12? Oh, winner, chicken dinner. Okay? So you should be aware of this. And if you're writing notes down, the only notes that I would hope that you're writing down would be that. Okay? Now, obviously, we just talked about the lowest common denominator, that you don't always do that. You can look for. So if you've got a notes page, you might want to do that. We're about to do an example with alge. Watching it change. Oh, you haven't seen, yeah, you got to watch for Promethean Man. He's hard to see on the black background. Okay, so I don't need you to write this down unless you really want to. This will be on OneNote. It saves there, okay? Here we go. We look, pretty simple. We look at the 2 and the 3 and we say, what's the smallest number that 2 and 3 both go into? In this case, say it all together. 6. Excellent. 2 times 3. And of course, you're either telling yourself or asking yourself 2 times what gives me 6? Well, it has to be 3. Or you're doing the cross-multiplying thing, right? So you had to times that by 3, so what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. But do you get that if you are just getting the common denominator by timesing these together, then you just cross-multiply? All right, so pretty simple. That becomes 3a plus 2a. We end up with 2a plus 3a is 5a over 6a. Oops, stop it. Over 6. And you look, is there anything that goes into 5 and 6? No, that's it. Yes, thank you. I didn't put today's date. It's the 8th. And that's a happy birthday, Karen, who I wished yesterday for her birthday. Now I forgot to wish today. All right, when we are subtracting, same deal. We've got 2 and 5. What's your lowest common denominator? No one's saying anything. It's 10. And then we cross multiply. So we end up with, what did I times 2 by to get to 10? I times it by 5, so I have to times the top by 5. In other words, we're cross multiplying. 5 times 2 gives me 10, so you have to do the same to the top. Can I do anything with that? I got the 6 and the 10. Can I cancel those down? Cancel the 6 and 10? Can I? No. Why am I not allowed to cancel the 6 and the 10? It's not a times in between. You've got that minus. There's no common factor. So no cancelling. That stays put. Okay? Lo and behold, wow, I didn't even know this question was coming, but we just did this. What's the lowest common denominator? What's the lowest common number that 8 and 12 both go into? We just said 24. And so 8 times what gives you 24? Well, it's 3. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Do you have to write these little things at the side? I hope not. I'm just putting them there so you can see. All right, so that becomes 15. And times 2, you got to do the same on the top. You check, no common factor on the top line. That stays as is. Simples? You got the same thing if you've got un, deux, trois numbers. Maybe a little bit harder. You have to think of what's the lowest common denominator for 4, 3, and 6. So remember what I just talked to you about? Take the biggest number possible and look at the multiples. So you go 6, you go 12, to 4 and 3, yes. Go in, well, bang, you're done. Just go along and we go, okay, what did I times 4 by to get to 12? 3. So I've got to do the same upstairs. Uh-oh, there's an x there. That's all right. It becomes 3x. It says minus, I put minus. What did I times 3 by to get to 12? So times the top, 4x. What did I times 6 by? So it becomes 2x. And now we just tidy up. In this case, we can tidy up. We've got some like terms cracking on there. Minus x plus 2x is just 1x all over 12. All right, so we check. I feel white coming on. We look. 2 and 5, lowest common denominator. 10. I hope you notice I'm doing this and I'm putting it just as one big denominator, one big fraction. And you're going, what is she on about? There's nothing new to what we did last time. What did I times 2 by to get to 10? 5. So I do the same to the top. Notice, because I've got 2 things now, I have to times all of them by 5. Micah, you might have just wanted to go 5x, take 10 and put it there. That's okay. But when it comes to this bit, let's just be careful, because notice, what did I times 5 by to get to 10? 2. So now there's a minus here, but I have to times this by 2. So 2, 4 minus 3x. If Micah just went, yeah, 4 times 2, yes, minus 8, and 3x times 2 is minus 6x, yeah? You're thinking, oh, no worries. Look what happens when we expand ours. 5x, take 10, negative 2 times 4, yes, is negative 8, but what's minus times a minus? So please, when you have the minus in between here, can you just make sure that you're aware of your brackets? Otherwise, you're going to get some of your signs wrong. Okay, gather your like terms. 5x plus 6x is 11x. Minus 10 take 8. Last time I checked was 18, all over 10. No common factor to be found on the top line, so that's as low as I can go. Yeah? I might have jumped the gun just a little bit there, but that was another, I think, question that somebody asked about. With this one, what's your lowest common denominator? You could times them together, and some people went 2x cubed. And then what did I times this by to get 2x cubed? Well, I times by x squared. I'm looking over here. But then you're going to have to do extra work and pull out a common factor. So if you went the lowest common factor first, can you see? I want you to stop, have a think. Why is this the lowest common factor?
2x goes into 2x squared and x squared goes into 2x squared.
So again, start with the biggest one here and you go x squared. Well, x goes into x squared. but this doesn't have the times 2. So let's just stick that there. And now that becomes our lowest common denominator. And you're asking yourself that same question you did in primary school. Oh, what do I times this by to get to this? And what I do to the bottom, do to the top. So it's really you have a stop, have a think, practice. We want to do 4D, and then we've basically done with our fractions. It is now time to revise. You should be finishing that work first, then do your assignment. I'm hoping it's only 20 questions, and you're meant to do question 1 to 8 for homework. So you've got 12 questions to do over the weekend for homework. So can I ask for it to be handed up on Monday? And I'll mark it and give it back to you on Wednesday.